Hello, gentlemen. Welcome back. It's Confidently Wrong. Brian, how you doing today?
I'm good. A little
Sav, how you?
tired.
Oh, a little bit tired. What? Did you go out or something last night?
I had a game night last night. We hosted a game night, and some of our game night participants stayed way too late. Thanks a lot for not leaving till like 2 a.m. or something.
You didn't make the move where you like stand up and start doing dishes and be like, "Hey, thanks for coming, guys."
I thought I
Or
was.
just be like, hey y'all, it's late, we getting ready to go to bed.
I think I should turn off the lights. I think.
Or you can say, hey man, it's getting late, we just getting ready to go to bed.
Yeah,
That's not the Asian way,
I was
Sav.
like putting stuff away. Maybe it wasn't that obvious. Like I should have been like, shoo, go away. I'm trying to go to bed.
Until that point, was it fun?
It was a good night.
Nice.
I came in last in the
Oh, no.
first game we played.
Ooh,
which is a bad look. Bad look for the host, right? You know, I'm like,
No, you're just
teaching
being
the game,
welcoming. You're giving everybody a good time.
giving everyone a shot.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The second game though, ooh, I was like at the top of the pack, you know, but not in the lead, but in the very end, I came in strong. I like committed to a strategy and won me the game by 1 point.
Nice.
Okay.
We love that.
I took the dub, and then I took the L by letting people stay at my apartment for way too long.
I thought you stay up late though.
That was too much, man.
Okay.
We got to record. We got a podcast to do.
Yeah, you gotta do
Podcast waits for
something
no
in the morning.
man.
All right, fair enough. And Sav, you checked out the Tyson Paul fight, I think,
I
last
watched
night.
some of it. It kept skipping on me and stuff. I watched some of it, but it was nonsense. I knew what I was signing up for, that it'd be nonsense.
I
Like,
thought
It looked like
Tyson.
elder abuse. That's what
Yeah.
I want to know.
you know what? Only thing I'm surprised about is just like, yo, people. I don't know why people thought Tyson was about to, you know.
That's what I thought. I thought Tyson was going to hand it to him.
That man is 58 years old.
Yeah, but he's strong and he's like an actual professional fighter. I don't know.
Father Time is undefeated.
Like
I don't
if
give
I swam against 55-year-old Michael Phelps, he would still beat me by a billion.
Okay, but what if you
lengths of the
actually
pool.
still did some actual swimming and training? That's the difference. It's not like Mike Tyson was fighting some person off the street who never boxed in their life. You might not like that Paul brother, but the dude is big and brolic and can fight. And clearly from the fight, it was
I didn't know.
clear.
Yeah, I didn't know how
not
good he was.
YMCA training, like
But he's not
top-notch
having-
Olympic training.
Oh, but isn't
At
he not
millions
like
of dollars combined.
fighting real fighters? Like, doesn't he do this a lot where he just fights like fake fighters?
Didn't he fight
people-
Mayweather? And get punked?
No. He's won a bunch of his fights, but it's mostly like stage celebrity fights against, like, he fought Nate Robinson. He fought like some other older. His whole shit gimmick is to people don't like him, so he leverages the hatred of him to rage bait people into paying for these fights. And like, yo, man, that's you just because.
Okay, I didn't understand that that's what he was doing. I just thought he like wasn't
he's a YouTuber.
serious. That's why I thought maybe Tyson would have a chance because he wasn't like that serious. I had thought he wasn't really fighting real fighters.
He might not be like a pro. Okay, here's the thing. People need to get this clear because people do this a lot where if you don't like somebody, it suddenly means they're not good at anything that they do because you don't like them.
Halo effect.
Yes, he might not be likable. He might not be some pro next level boxer, but the dude still is better than the average person. Like, you still seen the dude.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Just because he's not on like official standard, against his own peers and all that, who probably would cook him. That don't mean he can't fight, and it sure as hell don't mean he can't fight. The dude's still 6'1", big as a house, and clearly boxes like. Mike Tyson, but for the fun, I watched Mike Tyson's 58 years old. The dude couldn't even move. I don't care how old you are. Father Time is undefeated, and you know what? Shout out to the Paul brothers for leveraging rage bait to get rich, because it's a very viable game plan. Get people to hate you, and they will throw money at hoping that you fail.
I thought Tyson would handle his business.
And that's exactly why that Paul brother got so much bread.
Yeah,
because everybody thought that, or hoped it, or wanted it to happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they wanted him to get smacked down.
Yeah,
okay.
Because people don't like him. And
Why do people hate him so much? What did he do?
Just obnoxious YouTuber. Like, I don't think he do nothing that's like some kind of criminal illegal stuff.
Okay.
Very obnoxious YouTuber with a very obnoxious following of like kids and stuff. So it's very easy to just not like that.
All right. Sounds good. I knew nothing about this fight.
Not
I
a
didn't
good-
end up watching it.
Not a good use of time, but it is
Alright.
fun to troll the boxing fans because I don't care.
Yeah, Kendall's in our Apex Summit chat talking about how we should watch real boxing now.
I'm like, I don't want to watch real boxing.
Low key, sometimes real boxing very boring.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch it be good. I want to watch spectacle.
Okay. My only understanding of boxing of being like excellent is like watching old clips of Muhammad Ali when he was younger, like his early career, where he is just like a ridiculously mobile fighter and just does not let the other guy touch him. He just ducks and dodges somehow. Like it's almost like he has like a future sense where he can tell where the punch is coming, and he just leans a little bit out of the way and then leans like back the other way and then ducks his head, and like it's just like, oh my god, you're just
reflexes.
Yeah, your upper body is moving faster than his hand is moving to like hit you. Like it's just incredible to me watching old stuff like that where he was just clearly head and shoulders above really good boxers like for their time. But anyways, that's my boxing experience. I don't really watch boxing or know boxing or want to watch it. So let's move on to our movie. We're gonna talk about Gladiator. It was released when was it released?
Big spectacle fights that are worth watching.
This is the epic of it. Was this 2000 or 2002, Sav?
2000.
2000. All right. So Gladiator comes out in 2000, stars Russell Crowe, directed by is it Ridley Scott or Tony Scott? I always forget.
Ridley Scott.
Ridley Scott of let's see, what has he done in his
Blade Runner?
The Martian,
Alien,
The
huh?
Blade Runner,
Alien,
Thelma and Louise. So
G.I. Jane?
Huge.
Anyone?
Oh, he did G.I. Jane. I didn't know that. So he's done, very big movies. His career was like really hitting its stride here around this time. He's, in his bag, as the kids would say at that point.
Blade Runner was his best movie, and that was 1982.
Okay. But I don't know that he doing anything after that was like big. I guess so. Thelma and Louise.
Consistently, yeah.
G.I. Jane. Yeah, okay. So but maybe Gladiator's the like end of his huge movies.
The Martian. How about The Martian?
Yeah, he kind of makes a reappearance. He did American Gangster with Russell Crowe later on.
Napoleon last year.
Robin Hood.
Nobody saw.
So he works with Russell Crowe over and over again. He works with him in Robin Hood. He did The Gray with Liam Neeson. Okay, this guy's got a pretty big credits here in IMDb. So, this is his movie. I know Russell Crowe seemed like he actually was a little bit more collaborative in this one. I've seen him in interviews lately where he's talked about how he sort of helped develop the character of Maximus. And Ridley Scott kind of let him do that and made sure that he felt like he was in it. But the reason why we're talking about this is because Gladiator II is coming out pretty soon, starring Pedro Pascal and Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm. So what are we calling the dual release of Wicked and Gladiator 2 again?
Oh, it's got a name?
It's like the Barbenheimer thing. So
yeah.
Are we calling it Wickadator? Wickadator, Gladiated?
Gladiated? No, that's not going to work.
Glack?
Glicked? Gladiate?
I'm not. I don't know.
I refuses to participate in this foolish game.
No, I'm just like, I'll wait till y'all are done.
All right. Brian will think on it. Maybe we'll come back by the end of the show with something good between the two. So we're doing a revisit. We want to see, does a movie from 2000, which was 24 years ago now, almost 25 years ago now, hold up to our modern sensibilities? So let's get this started. What do you remember about seeing this movie the first time, Brian?
The first time I saw it was Wednesday night of this week.
Wait, what the fuck? You haven't seen Gladiator? How are you on my peer?
I've never seen Gladiator, this classic, quote-unquote classic movie from the 2000s, Academy Award-winning Gladiator.
What award did it win?
Best Picture.
Oh, it won Best Picture that year.
It won Best Picture.
As it should have.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. I remember looking up its competitors that year.
Yeah. We were so me and Brian would have been in...
Oh, it should have lost to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That's all I gotta say.
Oh. No.
Crouching Tiger, way better movie.
No. All right. So 2000, me and Brian are in high school. I was probably a sophomore, maybe a junior. Brian probably a junior, maybe a senior at that point. So this is our formative time. How did you not have a buddy who just went like, let's watch this movie, or in college, like watch it on DVD or something?
I don't know. I don't know how I missed it. And it's kind of syndicated on TNT or whatever
All
for
the time.
like 20 years.
That thing always on.
Always on. I mean, of course, I know the iconic, like,
Yeah.
are you not entertained? Like, I know that, and like, I've probably seen the commercial for this about a jillion times. Like, yeah, of course, there's a tiger coming out from underneath the dirt. Yeah, like I knew that.
Okay.
But yeah, I
can't believe you've never seen
watched
it.
this thing.
Oh my God! All right, Sav, what did you think about the movie the first time you saw it? Did you see it? Well, let's see. You would have been too young to see it in theaters. So how did you end up seeing it? Because you said you
I was
did see
too
it,
young to see in theaters.
right? How old were you?
He's a
Old enough to
precocious
be
one.
old enough to be in the movies. I would have been, I don't know, 7.
Oh,
7-year-olds.
man, you saw it in the theater as a 7-year-old?
No, but I don't like Wes saying that I couldn't have. Like, who the hell are you to say what I could or couldn't have been doing? My mama could have taken me to see Gladiator. I had seen Friday by that point. I can definitely have seen Gladiator.
Okay.
I definitely saw
I
stuff
thought you
I
were
should
like
not
3.
have at 8 years
In my
Three?
head, you were like 3, so that's why I thought.
I was born in
Yeah.
the early 90s.
Okay. All right. So
93.
tell us what you remember about this movie.
I had to watch it in high school. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
It had been hyped up even before I watched it for my class, and I just knew it was a very like well acclaimed movie. I watched it. I was entertained. I was entertained.
He was
So
entertained.
during that moment,
but-
you were like, yes, yes,
but
I am.
I will say I definitely had some different takes watching it now that I'm older, just because I was able to do
Ooh,
it on
okay.
my own. It wasn't in a classroom setting. I got to, my tastes have changed or been more refined since then. I'm a little bit more critical. So I enjoyed it then. I definitely have more. I can see the warts in it now. As a kid, as a youngin', I was just like, oh man, Rome, gladiators and shit, they fighting.
Hell yeah.
Get it.
Let's go.
As an adult, I'm like, yo, dope. Let's get it. Ooh, what's this dialogue?
Dialogue. What is dialogue even?
All right, so let's get into it. So, are we just gonna all acknowledge that the action sequences were all pretty fun and dynamic and interesting and well done? Or Brian, are you gonna? I thought so.
Well, okay, so like
This is on the rewatch. So now this is your 40-year-old self. What is your judgment on the action sequences?
Yeah. Part of why we're watching this stuff is not, well, in part because the sequel is coming out, but also this is our like, does it hold up? Is it like, is that the question here?
Yeah.
In a way. So the action, does the action and the fighting, the combat, does that hold up to today's standards? I might say I think it's still really entertaining, and the set pieces are really cool. Like, okay, guys in a sword fight with a dude wielding an axe and a sword, and there are chained tigers every which direction that he's going, and that's an awesome set piece. Like, okay, like no argument there. The execution of watching these on-screen fights, maybe they're not all super clear in terms of the choreography, like maybe
there were some confusing cuts. I'll give you that.
Yeah. There's a lot of cutting. There's a lot of cutting going on in these fights, and which direction and which things are happening where. It just felt like okay, here's a lot of things happening on screen and fatal blow, which is kind of how I read a lot of the action, but I think conceptually, the atmosphere, and that makes it cool. And also what makes it cool is the drama that is underlying most of the action scenes, except for maybe the very first battle, which is kind of, just like, we got a huge budget. Let's do a giant battle.
Yeah. Your boy's a general, so we don't know anything. General.
Yeah. We just need to understand that he's an effective general and is a good fighter. But later on, when we understand the stakes at play between Maximus and Joaquin Phoenix's Caesar,
I think Commodus was his
Commodus.
name.
Yeah.
Commodus, which is kind of a strange name. I was like, Commodus? Of course, nobody's following you with the name like that.
There was a Gracchus. I mean, I don't know.
It might as well have been Barfus. Like, come on.
Jeez. But
But,
Commodus is real.
but when you add that to the action scenes, I think that's actually where the movie shines, and you get this like dynamic, riveting thing that once the movie hits its stride. I had qualms about watching a 2.5-hour movie late on a Wednesday night, but once the movie hits its stride, you're just kind of into it. It's like, yeah, Gladiator. But the specific action could be better. Could be better. We're in a post John Wick world. I expect a lot from my action.
Okay. Did we make the same arguments for Superman when we asked about Superman? Does it hold up?
Well, Superman wasn't really.
Who knows?
Superman wasn't really trying to use a bunch of fight choreography type stuff, so that didn't really
because they couldn't.
Yeah,
They
but
didn't know how.
we were more impressed with what they were able to pull off with limited
Okay.
resources.
And for the record,
Yeah.
they had fight scenes back then. Star Wars existed around this same era, and they had fight scenes. This Superman just wasn't a movie about fight scenes, which is fine. But I agree with
the fight scene between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in that first movie. Oh my god. It's just like,
Is it really bad?
Yeah,
I
it's
gotta
so
watch
bad.
that.
And then
See?
he just gives up and
See, it aged well. Wes is being disingenuous. I actually think it aged well because
fight?
of what you. Yeah, because of what
No,
Brian.
that particular fight is awful.
No, because of what Brian just said about Gladiator, which I agree with, in that the choreography maybe could use some like work. But a good Wes, I'm gonna throw a effing brick at you. But
Put it in the mail.
the choreography could use some work, but I think a good movie fight stakes are also very important. The emotional depth, the motivation behind it. You can have a fight with amazing choreography that has no stakes, and so that takes away from it. And a fight that has not the best choreography, but the stakes are high enough to where you're still invested. Brian, to your point, the fights themselves weren't super interesting, but the motivations, the stakes, the set pieces, the hype behind the crowd really elevated them. And I think that's what I think aged really well with this movie was the moments where you're like, man, I can tell that I'm watching a movie right now.
Oh yeah.
Man, like that's like a woof. I need the big screen, the surround sound. Some stuff you can watch on your phone, on your laptop. This is one of those movies like, nah, B, you need to dim the lights, get you some popcorn, big screen that shit, and strap in. So respect to them for keeping that those cinematic qualities aged really well 24, 25 years later.
Yeah, I thought the action sequences were awesome. I love that first scene. Just the visuals of like the flaming trebuchets throwing the flaming oil, it's spraying everywhere. The quiet before it starts, right? And then you see the horseback rider, but with the headless horseback rider coming in, who's been killed. Their emissary or whatever, their negotiator is sent back to them on the back of his own horse.
It made me wonder if Gladiator set the stage for all the other epic fight scenes, epic, like medieval battles.
When did Troy come out?
24 years.
I think that was
after.
later.
Troy was definitely later.
2004. You're right.
Like even Lord of the Rings, right? Their battle scenes
Influenced by this, yeah.
Probably. And Lord of the Rings came out later, but they were probably shooting before Gladiator was released. I don't know. So, but
yeah, but you don't get those big epic battles until the second and third movie, right?
That's true. That is true.
So maybe informed by this a little bit. Maybe. It's possible.
Although Braveheart came out in the mid-90s, so maybe Braveheart was first.
Oh, maybe Braveheart. We'd have to go back and watch that last battle scene. I don't know if Braveheart would stand up to the same level of epicness to this.
Yeah, this is definitely full on.
This movie raised the bar. Yeah. This movie raised the bar of like, hey, yo, man, there's like battle sequences and there's like battle sequences.
Yeah. And they did a great job in this movie taking you into the battle, right? Like, so I'm thinking of the chariot battle.
Yeah.
I mean, they take you right next to the chariot's wheels, and you get to see the like crushing against the crashing against the shields. You're in this huge stadium, but like a lot of the shots are close up, and so you're seeing just the like faces. You're seeing the like the clattering of the swords against shields and all of this stuff. And so I think I really like that about it. I think you could take that too far, and which is maybe where they lost a little bit of the like coherence of the fight. But but the ability to make you feel like you're in the middle of this battle, I think they did a really, really good job with that in terms of action sequences. You bought that, or I bought that Russell Crowe as Maximus was a great fighter. He takes on, when he's about to be executed, and he takes down like the 4 Praetorian guards or 5 Praetorian guards or whatever. And you just, I don't know, it didn't seem like, oh, this is like, he half-assed the choreography or whatever. He didn't train for this. It really felt like he trained for this. He felt convincing as a fighter. It's still a movie. It's not, but and it wasn't like this world needed you to be a Jackie Chan type of fighter, right? You didn't need to be Kung Fu master. You need to be brutal. You need to be strong. You need to be like able to just handle your own in the middle of a like chaotic fight. And right, like some of that is just pure strength. And I think I bought that. So I'm giving, does it hold up for action? Yes, it holds up, with the caveat that some of the cutting was like a little bit confusing. Like sometimes people would just be like, oh, I'm down. But otherwise, I like Sav's point about, or was it Brian's point about, like there being emotional stakes to how the fights were going on here. So I think that part holds up for sure. Sav, you agree? It holds up?
Yeah, I think those parts are. I mean,
All
we'll
right.
get to my the things that I didn't think hold
Okay,
up.
so let's get into that. Is the story and dialogue, do you think that didn't quite hold up after a rewatch 24 years later?
Yeah, straight up, it just wasn't as interesting. I'm gonna be honest. Like, it was a long movie, but some of the political stuff, I just was like, I just don't think I care. I don't care that the old emperor dad was gonna make Maximus his successor, and then the son was a jerk about it, and he did
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all that was cool.
Does it feel kind of mundane at this point, like that storyline?
That was cool to start it off and explain why he ends up in the gladiator thing. But the middle to back half, where he's a gladiator, but he's also kind of doing these hidden machinations with other people he knew because the emperor's a jerk or is awful, was kind of like, I feel like we're just putting this in here because we need more movie besides Gladiator. But I would have almost preferred the movie focus on just the intra gladiator drama rather than him beefing with the emperor, I just didn't care.
But weren't those the stakes that made those battles interesting?
To me, him fighting for his life, knowing what he's lost, already made the stakes interesting, and him potentially trying to fight for his freedom, like that alone and his tragedy already had me invested in his fights. So trying to also, basically, I know this might be a real hot take, but like the whole idea of Maximus trying to and successfully getting revenge on the emperor, I was just like, I don't know if I'm buying this.
So really, the movie we needed was not a story about Maximus, but Maximus's owner, who was a former gladiator who won his freedom.
Yeah, or it could
Proximo.
be about Maximus earning his freedom. It could be about his relationship with the other gladiators, which the movie did touch on,
which was pretty interesting. I did like the other gladiators.
Yeah, like straight up the stuff with the other gladiators and the life of a gladiator behind the scenes and the politics and all that stuff, and him being a general leveraging that to be a badass gladiator. That was more interesting to me than the current emperor is a dick, and I know he betrayed you, but people still loyal to you. And I'm like, dude, you lost, respectfully. Like, yo, man, dude kicked you out the army and killed your family. Like, I don't know. It felt like he got revenge because the plot demanded that he had to get revenge.
This is a cold take.
Some of the ways they got to that just felt like he ties the dude up and stabs him before personally challenging him to a duel. I'm like, dude,
yeah,
I don't care about this. Like, the emperor, who's not a fighter, is fighting this badass warrior. All that stuff, it just started to, honestly, it felt a little goofy to me. It felt like they had a vision of how they wanted the story to end, and they were going to do whatever it takes to get there. And how we got there,
a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely felt that way
because we got politics stuff that I didn't really care about with characters who didn't particularly interest me, and the non-fighting dickish emperor being the final boss just didn't feel satisfying because you already know Maximus is a better fighter, and him getting cheap shot stabbed just made it less interesting. You don't get a cool,
it's like
badass
fight for Superman.
It's like he doesn't get to do a cool badass fight because he's hurt and it clearly hurt. I don't know. For a main
Dune
villain,
2 also did that same scene way better.
Yeah, for a main
Right.
villain who I just don't particularly care about, or I don't care about him to be the final fight. I care about him to be an institution, but I don't know. I think it should have been, the movie should have focused more on the gladiators and their life and them trying to earn freedom, not Maximus getting revenge. I thought the best actors and best characters were the gladiators, and the moment they started to shift away from that into the politics, I was like, cool. I clearly know what I'm here for. I'm here for gladiator, not politics.
I
disagree.
I agree that all the political machinations that happened in the last, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes of the movie felt like really rushed and kind of, I don't, you just like go with it. Like it felt like a lot of those things just like wouldn't have been able to happen. Like, yeah, like having Maximus having all these secret meetings and like the senators being in on it, and one senator's playing Caesar's side, another one is trying to do it for the people, and like
this I agree with.
And then getting, like getting Proximo, like him just convincing Proximo, who was not interested at all, and just saying like, yeah, communists killed the guy that gave you your freedom. Like, would a guy like Proximo really care though? Like, yes, he was pleased to receive that, that symbol of his freedom from the previous Caesar, but something tells me that he would not actually stick his neck out for this guy. And and all that stuff just felt like it was moving really too fast, and they just wanted to arrive at, to your point, Savon, at this final standoff between Caesar and Maximus. And
I thought Proximo got paid.
Did he get paid? He also got stabbed by like a million guys, like in the most unceremonious way.
I thought the sister paid Proximo when the plan was starting to fall apart to get him out of there quicker. That's how I interpret it.
I missed that part.
Oh yeah, but maybe you're right. Maybe he just decided out of the goodness of his heart. But
what I did like though about the Caesar Maximus standoff though was more about kind of like the thematic, like political lens that was happening. It was just about controlling the masses, right? I watched this after the elections from a couple weeks ago, and just thinking about which way the masses were going and how important that was. Just the spectacle of Maximus that he provided for them in the Coliseum was enough to give him political power, and make the actual ruler weaker. Because of that, I thought that was super interesting and very much part of why the Coliseum and why the Gladiator were so important. And to me, that gave the movie this kind of like rich depth that it otherwise would not have had.
Agreed. Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing, that like it's not that the emperor is necessarily exactly like a Donald Trump, but in some ways there's these like parallels that you can't help but notice around. He's willing to like satiate the masses' need for bloodlust, right? And this violence that they crave and they want. And the Senate is like, we can't move against him as long as all the people are really excited about all of these, like,
they love being distracted.
Yeah.
Bread and circuses, baby.
It's like this MAGA parallel, right, around all this stuff and how it works. And it's like, oh, this is how he's keeping his power, and how he's like trying to eliminate his like senatorial like opponents, but also doesn't trust anyone, and like thinks of himself as like this ultimate mastermind, and he's he wants to take on Maximus himself, but he's also not going to fight him on a fair fight. He's not like that, that stupid. So I don't know. I don't really hear you saying like, I don't really agree that it doesn't make sense that he poisoned him, or that I wasn't interested in that. It's actually like that made it, or injured him or whatever.
Well,
to me, that made
it was just like, I don't see his shit.
Oh, well, like I bought all of that because Commodus had shown himself to be so insecure and so like, Penguin, like we talked about Penguin on our last episode, how he just wanted power, he wanted acceptance, and he was willing to do it. And he felt like the only way to get that from the crowd was to battle him himself, right? To, like you said, like rage bait the crowd into wanting something, right? And then to eliminate him in some way. I don't know. It felt like
that felt
he wanted
contrived.
to
Like,
extinguish his power and be like, yeah, your gladiator is not actually that much of a gladiator. Like, you're rooting for the wrong guy. You should be rooting for your emperor who's able to defeat this man, you know?
see, I thought that felt contrived. But honestly, I think I get what you're saying. I think my fundamental issue is always going to be Maximus has beef with the Emperor Commodus. I just felt like, considering he's an emperor in his position of power, all this wealth, money, power, and a guy now, Maximus is like an enslaved gladiator. In my mind, there is no viable path to him getting his revenge that doesn't feel contrived by the plot. Like, that's kind of just like where I'm at with it. Because, yeah, really, that's all I got to say with that.
I think
that
you could have
character
had that had their
gives
plan
untouchable
worked.
energy, and to make him untouchable, you had to jump through a bunch of what I thought were uninteresting hoops for someone who wasn't even interesting to fight and kill anyway. It's not like you got this super awesome fight. It was like a bunch of machinations, and they did all of that, and ultimately I didn't feel satisfied by any of it along the way. I wasn't satisfied by the machinations, by the plotting, by the fighting, by him getting them at the end. Like, none of that resonated with me.
I could definitely see a movie where Maximus has no relationship with Commodus beforehand and is just like some disgraced general who lost his family and ends up in the gladiator pits, and still have the political thing that you're talking about, Wes, where it's like, oh, suddenly Caesar feels threatened by some gladiator, even though he set up this whole spectacle just to control the population, but now he's losing his edge because somebody is being better at being the spectacle. I think that still could have worked. Like, the whole thing about like, oh, like daddy loved this guy and wanted him to be the Caesar.
Yeah, like that shit
that
just
kind of
felt
thing.
whack.
Just, it's like, whatever. Who cares about that?
You didn't like that. I like that. I mean, I think that's what...
It shrunk the scale of the story in a way that I didn't like, because in my mind,
it made it melodramatic, right?
Yeah, like in my mind, this is this huge world. It's one of the largest empires that exists. You got people from all these different countries and cultures, so they look super diverse and different-ish, for the time period. All that stuff, and they're huge, and they got. My point is that they created this. The story takes place in this big, huge world. The world starts to feel really small when all of these characters all know each other.
I think that's a strength of the movie.
I think it took away from it. Like, I didn't like the idea that he's a badass general, gets disgraced, years go by, he's a gladiator, but then suddenly, all your troops are still loyal to you years later.
Yeah.
To me, it made it feel like it made the world feel like a small town rather than a sprawling empire. If it's a sprawling empire, I just don't necessarily buy the idea that years later, all your soldiers are so loyal to do that, even though you're a slave gladiator. Y'all can basically successfully pull a damn near coup to flip the government. Like, that, to me, again, that made the story feel really small. And
okay,
what made the Roman Empire feel really small? When Maximus is riding his horse and fast travels between like the forest, and then like suddenly he's in the desert, and then he's in Spain. Like, what the heck, man? Could we have gotten some more transitions in there?
I don't understand this criticism. You wanted less of the story and less of the like action. You just wanted him traveling. That makes no sense to me.
Well,
I think as a crowd,
there was an opportunity to develop his character
as an audience.
I mean, it was just like it was rushed. Is all I'm saying.
Fast travel feels cheap. Fast traveling feels
you can't
cheap,
fast
bro.
travel.
Fast traveling feels cheap, like, just straight up, unless you do it really well.
Oh my God.
Come on, man, you gotta admit, fast traveling feels cheap.
No,
the same
because
way time skips can feel cheap if you don't put like some dates to show something and change. God. It feels unsubtle and like
something needed to change.
Yeah,
there just wasn't. He couldn't just go from like, I've escaped, now I'm suddenly at my family home, family farm.
The same issue people have with Game of Thrones, right? Where they say, oh, how did Daenerys and them get the dragons from one side of Westeros to another that quick? It's like, hey, yo, man, we need some transition. Now, that was also bad geography of understanding the world, but low-key, this is the same premise. Like,
no, it's not. Time passes.
Also, why does he gotta like be a floating head across the desert when he becomes enslaved?
Wait, I want to talk.
That was a weird shot.
I want to talk about that a little bit, but I don't have a problem with the fast travel because time has passed between the time that he leaves the place and the times that he gets there. It's just we don't have to see him actually ride his horse for 2 fucking weeks to get to where he's going. Like I don't understand what the appeal of like watching someone ride a horse across the land for 2 weeks is. Like
it better conveys that a long distance is traveled, so it adds weight to the idea that they've gone really far.
how much
from A to B.
more screen time did you want for him being on a horse?
I mean, it could literally just be a few seconds or just like a transition shot.
They gave you a few seconds. They gave you multiple few seconds of him traveling where he was like starting to fall off his horse, like he was starting to like hallucinate. They gave you all of that. And then when he was traveling to the slave pits in Algeria or whatever, they showed like him like going in and out of consciousness, and then they gave you the headshot. Let's talk about that. So he's floating, right, levitating basically through the air. Like I don't know what this choice was about. It was like really interesting.
What kind of Teletubby shit is that?
Yeah, it like really. I don't know. I feel, and then they would
Very
show like the sky. They would show the sky like fast moving or whatever, and like time. It was like a time lapse.
Well, that was a little better because that's time passing.
Oh, okay. And but they also changed the coloring on that. It was like very like gray and cool toned when they did those things. I don't know. Those all felt like, oh, we want to be a little bit artsy and visually interesting here to show something, but like it wasn't super clear what the meaning of that was. I don't know if you guys have an interpretation.
They just could have did it better. That's just really
put your best AP literature, bullshit hat on. I'm sure there was a meaning here that we could come up with.
I would simply just do better.
Maybe he's actually dead, and everything that he experiences from the floating head on is just the afterlife.
Maybe. And we do, right, get these ties to Elysium and his afterlife and these visions. So I mean, there was something there around like his consciousness like fading in and out that gave him the sort of surrealistic perspective and like feelings. And he's kind of disconnected with his own body because he's not fully conscious. So it feels to him like he's floating, even though he's actually supported by a cart. But whatever.
This makes perfect sense. He's been hallucinating the entire movie. No wonder the fate of the Roman Empire rests around his like melodramatic family relationships, and then his soldiers come to him at the end after years and years. He's dreaming this stuff, man. He's deluded himself.
Yep, that explains why. That explains.
None of this actually happened. It was all in his head. His wife is actually fine, living back home in Spain. All right, let's keep it rocking and rolling a little bit here. Did you have like a favorite moment or scene? My favorite scene is always when he takes off the helmet and he announces to the crowd that I am Maximus Decimus, whatever. What's his name? Maximus Decimus something. And says that, I'm a father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I shall have my vengeance in this life or the next. Like, just to me, that just moment of like total badassery is like really fun to me. So that's the one that stood out to me. I think the other moment that stands out to me that like gets me a little bit weird is like all the times where Commodus and Joaquin Phoenix is trying to like make out with his sister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like just like what was that even for?
Like that.
No one. They just say, all right, we gotta make him even more unlikable. All right, let's do the laziest thing possible. All right, I
don't even know if it was lazy. It came out of left field. I was like, I don't get where this is coming from.
Why not both? Like, hey, okay, how do we make this guy unlikable? I know he's already a jerk who killed his dad. What else can we do? He tries to holler at the sister who likes Maximus. Sure. Again, world was too small because those two had Maximus and no girl already had like a thing that existed before. That's what I'm saying. Like moments like that, I'm like, yo, does everybody just already effing know each other? This world feels like it's made of 30 people.
He was high commander in the army. I mean,
and why is Maximus making out with her? Like, come on! I thought you were grieving over your dead family and you're out for revenge.
Hey, his life is about to end, bro. I don't mind it.
She was kind of all up ons too. It's kind of hard.
If Anna passed away and was killed, and you were about to be killed, and some hot lady threw herself at you, I mean, like, why not? You're only going to live for another 30 seconds, like 30 minutes.
That was the executive saying that we need a love interest in a movie about a man getting revenge for his family getting killed.
That's true.
If a movie is about someone getting revenge for their loved ones being killed, they do not need to have a loved one, interest in the movie.
They did not. That was unneeded.
I think the movie is trolling us, right? Like the movie is about the masses being controlled by a spectacle, and so they were just throwing in like titillating moments, like, "Ooh, he's gonna this like hot woman is gonna go after the new widower guy," and then now we're gonna gross you out because guess what? Her brother is also trying to hook up with her.
Yeah, I'm like, what kind of Days of Our Lives shit is this, man? Like, dude, I heard him watch Gladiator, not I don't even know what to compare.
Love
Game
Island.
of Thrones. Yeah,
Yeah,
Love
Love
Island.
Island.
Jeez.
I do think you're right. It didn't make sense
What is this,
for his
Bridgerton?
character to do this, but it definitely, like, I don't know, it just made it all more like juicy. So I was okay with that, and it gives him a reason to like fight. Right?
Were you getting juicy, Wes?
he want ew.
Yeah, no, that ain't it. That ain't big
What?
dog.
Sorry.
Sky out of here.
Moving along. All right. So that was my favorite scene. Was just him taking off the helmet and just being like, "Fuck you! I own this crowd." I don't know. Did anything else stand out to you, Brian?
There's one moment that did, and well, actually there were a few moments I really liked when Maximus, in that fight with the chariots in the Coliseum, rallied the other gladiators around him, so that, yeah, like, the only way we're going to survive this is together, and they form the shield phalanx,
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
makes it impenetrable, and they overcome insurmountable odds with wit and military strategery, which spoke to his character, and it was just a really cool scene to watch. And I love the moment when Caesar is trying to figure out what to do with this guy.
Wait, Commodus.
Or Commodus, Caesar Commodus,
Is his
Caesar,
name
whatever
Caesar
he's called.
Commodus? I don't know.
I think Caesar's
Caesar's the, like,
is
title.
It's a
the
title.
title that they're using for the ruler, right? And then,
Got you.
so
Got
you
you.
got the entire Coliseum crowd thumbs upping for Maximus. And
live. Somehow
Caesar's
as a cheer.
putting out his fist, and I was like, oh, this is why people do the thumbs up, thumbs down thing that I feel like I've seen so many times. And I was like, oh, that's what it means. It's an execution versus letting somebody live.
That is hilarious.
I thought that was kind of like a cool, impactful moment, and I get why people repeat it. I think I shall repeat it at the end of every Confidently Wrong episode when I judge the two of you. The moment, speaking of like moments that stood out, the moment that was really underwhelming though was, "Are you not entertained?" And it like came so early in the movie.
Oh, you thought it was gonna be like
it
the
was
climax
not.
of the movie?
It was in the mini Coliseum. It was like in like
Backyard
the
fights.
minor league Coliseum.
You're in the
It's like,
GZ doing the LeBron chalk, and you like, yo, man, I thought this was the finals he was doing.
Like, come on! Of course they're not entertained. This is not the big show. And I was like, man, and yet that's the moment that survives. Come on.
It's a good moment. He's telling him, like, this is all stupid. What are you, like, you came here for this bloody battle. You're all complicit in this atrocity. Like,
I just, I assume like a thing that has aged as that line has
so funny.
would have been like the really
a bigger moment.
pinnacle moment. Not at all.
All right, fair enough. It wasn't the epic climax you were hoping for there. Sav, did you have a favorite scene or moment?
I'm gonna go with Brian on the chariot scene. I thought that was one of the best scenes of really showing what Maximus is all about, and that he's a badass, he's charismatic, he can rally people behind him, smart, leveraging the witty stuff because they were outnumbered and they were clearly really kind of just getting set up to die on some real shit, like just keeping a buck.
Well, that's the premise for the battle, right? It's a slaughter.
Yeah. But I thought that was probably the best scene of really showing who his character is and who he's all about. Again, other scenes, I like the character, but I felt like they didn't give him as many moments to really shine as a character, if I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, but him just that battle and all his interactions with the gladiators, like, again, I would watch an entire movie about just the gladiator stuff because I just love them deep diving into that whole, like, who was the gladiator who was played by
Digimon.
Thank you.
I love that gladiator.
Yeah, like, so you get an excuse to have all these different men and women or whatever from different cultures around the empire. So it opens itself to some cool storytelling, and you can really, because it's gladiator, you can pull any effing kind of character you want. But that was when the movie really was shining most to me, because I just think that those spaces give you room for more interesting characters rather than politicians who can kind of be I don't know, a little more 1-2 note. They're either on this side, this one, or their own, and there's not really too much else.
And to me, that really is what opens up the idea of the Roman Empire. It's because you have people from all disparate places, and they're part of the empire. And yeah, that to me, that opened up my mind about what this world is.
Yeah, and what the movie could have focused on instead. And I was like, oh, we're just focusing on these like boring old white politician people. I feel like we're maybe not taking full advantage of what this world actually offers and what you could actually zero in on, especially because, frankly, Greco-Roman stuff gets focused on a lot. But I think the diversity and size of the Roman Empire is actually something that's not really touched upon in a lot of pop culture media.
Shocking.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying nothing surprising.
Hollywood in the 2000s wanted to focus on just the white people in the Roman Empire.
Yeah, lucky y'all got y'all black gladiator. It says, "Shut up and be happy."
So I think, I don't know, Brian, if you agree with this, because my memory is not the best, but I think this movie probably puts both Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix on the map. Like,
this is the movie that made both of them, I think.
Yeah.
Huh.
Did you have any thoughts now, looking back on it, on their performances? I mean, I think it's like I think what you guys are saying is probably right. Now that I'm thinking about it, right, like in like really actually evaluating, it's like, yeah, Russell's Crowe's performance maybe wasn't anything crazy standout here,
Mhm.
but I think it's also a skill, right, as an actor, to command that kind of role in that screen and be on screen for that long and make it entertaining and interesting and like have people root for you. And he's able to do that, and right, like that's not something that every actor can do, and I think he did it well. It wasn't like, oh, this guy's kind of a a goofy guy. And Joaquin Phoenix's character, because I think people saw at the time saw it as like, Jesus, like, without being a formidable fighter, this man is terrifying, right? Like his just unhingedness sort of like showed out in here, and his ability to do it on like a knife's edge of complete like emotional vulnerability through the whole thing, I think was probably what stood out to a lot of people watching at the time. I mean, we were fairly young, so I don't know if I had this kind of language at the time for watching movies, but I think watching back on it, in some ways, like, I appreciate that still, right? His Joaquin Phoenix is just sort of like focus on getting revenge and power and his ability to hang on to it. But at the same time, in some ways, it was like, oh, you're doing Christian Haydenson, whiny Anakin a little bit too much. And I thought there were just parallels between like, oh, I was disrespected, and like that man disrespected me, and like, oh, why can't the world be fair, and like I deserve this. And I don't know why I turned into Steve Urkel there, but just like this like whiny
Laura doesn't love me.
but just this like whiny aspect of his character that he breaks out every now and then. Actually, like, I didn't vibe with that this time around watching this movie, and I haven't seen it in several years, but his like craziness was like something that stood out, but his whininess I didn't really appreciate or vibe with this time. So I don't know, it was kind of a mixed bag on Joaquin Phoenix. I still really enjoyed Russell Crowe's performance.
It, like, his character is reminiscent of Aegon's. Is that Aegon Targaryen?
Yeah, big Aegon
and also the Lannister boy that
Joffrey.
really, Joffrey, right? And so like me watching this character in the shadow of those, right? Like, even though this predates that,
Yes,
it's
for
kind
what
of
it's
like
worth.
it's kind of like in my mind, somebody else has already done it kind of better.
You're
in
like
a
time
way.
traveling right now. That's so weird.
Yeah. Even though I know Gladiator probably influenced those portrayals.
Game of Thrones came out before Gladiator. Game of Thrones came out in like the 90s.
Oh, but not on screen.
In terms of like the TV adaptation.
Oh, okay. That's
Is
what
what
you
I'm
just meant the
saying.
characters. Like, oh man, Joffrey and them been awful since the books. Them people been ass. But yes, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah. So, I kind of like felt some of the whininess. Definitely in terms of acting within the movie itself, I do think Joaquin Phoenix does give like a pretty great performance in that. Like, he feels just like somebody who's off.
Yeah.
And really really has a lot of issues, and they're so deep rooted that he will always be unable to climb out of any of that, and is behaving in a way that just exacerbates the problems more and more and more.
And he's not a clown, right? Like,
He's
you're not like, oh,
he
it's so far that you're just being a clown.
yeah,
he's
he
jerk.
still feels kind of threatening.
Yeah.
And like in the ickiest way too,
Yeah.
right? I think that is the strength of his performance. And to me, overshadows Russell Crowe, even though Russell Crowe is the guy that won the Best Actor Oscar for his role in this. Like he does really do a good job at portraying this kind of quiet, virtuous man that people just want to believe in. And I think that combination of, like almost soft-spoken charisma that he has throughout the movie is good. Is it show stealing, show stopping, best actor worthy of that year? At 2024, it feels like Russell Crowe being Russell Crowe. So I I don't know about that, but it's these are solid performances, and iconic because they are the solid performances in this movie that titillates, right? And like people remember. So they do they do a good job earning their place in cinematic history that way.
Nice. Sav, Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix.
I think the performances were fine. Like, I don't think
All right.
anybody was like bad acting or anything. I just think I said this before. I think my thing was just the acting didn't get to shine as good as it could have because I just wasn't impressed by the dialogue. To be honest.
Oh yeah, you thought it was too like put on, too Shakespearean.
It just felt very unnatural. It felt very characters are giving speeches rather than having conversations. Characters are giving monologues instead of like talking. And I mean, I've talked about this in previous episodes. I'm just not a big fan of that. Where it feels like
is that
everyone's
a 2000s
doing
thing, Brian? Did that happen a lot in 2000 movies?
Monologuing? I think
Yeah.
it's
It feels
more.
like pre-written- it
I
feels
think
like
it's more
pre-written
Ridley
speeches.
Scott style.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the writer or director because I think some movies and stuff, old or new, the character dialogue just feels like two people having a conversation. And in this movie, it just didn't. It felt like almost like video game characters reading their
their proclamations.
They talk to the NPC and they just say their spiel, and it's like, cool. This is not a conversation with like, a back and forth, and I'm giving opinions based on new information I've gotten. I don't know.
All right.
I wasn't a big fan of it. It wasn't just like awful, but I was like, dude, it didn't let me appreciate the acting as much as I could have liked because it was dramatic in a way that wasn't hitting with me.
Yeah, I felt like the movie very much was more about a vibe, like this like really epic drama spectacle, and the dialogue was part of that. Like in a way, it didn't even matter what was being said. It was just how it was being said and the feeling that gives you of like it's just like grandiose importance and everybody's like really serious. None of it was, to me, like most of the dialogue wasn't really moving the plot forward too much or anything like that, and wasn't really revealing too much about characters, but it was just more about giving you this sensibility of like this is the world, this is the feeling of this movie, and they're just going through it. Like it was more a feeling than anything else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think at the end, or a little bit agree with that, because I think at the end, when Maximus finally kills Commodus by stabbing him through the throat or like the chest, I don't know what happened there with his little dagger, but just like a terrible way to like die and be extinguished in front of your adoring crowd, or who you hope is your adoring crowd. But like that's Maximus's culmination of his revenge, right? He's finally released from this revenge tour that he's on and can finally join his family, and he's put off joining them, right? Like he's sort of in this like weird limbo world. And I think the fact that I felt triumphant at the end when this happened, even when I watched it yesterday or this morning, right? Like feeling like, yes, you deserve to fucking die, you piece of shit, and I'm glad that you took that one in the throat.
Wow.
Like, I think that's good. That means that, like, I cared about this movie and like what happened in it, and even if there were like things where I was like, this is a little weird, or like, yeah, that sentence stuff was like, this did not pay off at all. The movie still holds up for me in that way, in that I wanted Joaquin Phoenix's character to like get his comeuppance because of like how unfair he was the entire movie and how he had stolen, this emperorship. So I mean, I think for me that works. Like, all of the movie, if it pays off at the end and this moment happens and I buy into that, then I'm good with that. The movie was entertaining and enjoyable. So let's do a ratings. How many gladiator tigers are you rating this on, or what's another rating system we could use?
I only have one rating system for this, and it is the thumb. Live by
Nice.
the thumb, die by the thumb. This is living. This
Yes!
is living.
Live, thumbs up from
Live,
Brian.
live. I agree with you, Wes. Like, just despite the issues that this movie has, like, made in a different era, and things kind of just, it's not all perfect or whatever. It still gives you this feeling of triumph, of like, oh man, like, I'm rooting for this guy. I want to see what happens. Oh, these set pieces are really cool. This is a very fascinating world. I was in the movie for sure. And I think, kind of like similar to the original Blade Runner, where you don't always know like what's happening, but it kind of doesn't matter as well, right? Like, that's the feeling that I get from this movie, and I think that's kind of a good place to be in movies generally. Like, there are a few movies where you just like walk away from not feeling like any of it matter, not feeling like you're going to remember any of it. I will definitely remember Gladiator.
Sav, how are you rating this one?
I give it like an 8.3 out of 10. Good movie, entertaining movie.
So it holds up.
It holds up, but I think people probably overhype it a little bit.
Yeah, way overhyped.
The movie is
guilty.
The movie is more of a It's a good movie, but it's more of a summer blockbuster popcorn flick than people are willing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I think there's nothing wrong with that, but I think sometimes Gladiators talked about this this more high art, really, really super in depth, and I'm like,
Who
I
is
think
saying this?
I'm saying how the movie. I'm talking about how the movie is like. I think how the movie is like. This movie isn't put into the same.
Rose-colored glasses, maybe.
I don't think people look at Gladiator the same way they look at other action summer popcorn flicks. I think Gladiator is looked at as having a little bit more depth and whatnot, and I think that depth is fool's gold. I think
his wife
has like a little bit more depth.
His wife and kid were like burned alive as punishment.
People dying does not mean something is deep.
No, but
I'm telling you, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Death does not equate to
way better.
Death.
No, but it wasn't just Troy. It was like the brutality of how his family was like murdered and taken from him.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with my critique. My critique is that ultimately,
that's why we're invested.
This is a really it's true. But ultimately, it's a really good action drama that has mediocre dialogue and kind of plays it fast and loose with some plot points that are probably not super interesting. That's okay, but let's not act like this movie revolutionized how we look at action movies and stuff. It was a really good movie that came out that did some stuff we hadn't really seen, but also floundered in some areas that we critique movies now for. That's fine. A 8.3 out of 10 is good. I would rewatch this movie. It's a good movie, but this is not one of those, oh my God, this is one of the greatest movies of all time. You have to see it. If you like action, you have to see this movie. I stand on that.
If you've never seen this, go see it.
It's a good movie, but this isn't like a, oh my God, even if you're not into these kind of movies, watch it type movie.
No, you have to be into these kind of movies.
Yeah, and I think some movies, though, are not that, or even if you're not into it, it can draw you in. I don't think Gladiator is one of those, but I think we've kind of, as a culture, maybe hyped it up to be a little deeper than what it was. Like I said, it's just hard.
And I think it's because this is like a guy's movie, and it's like the guy's movie where they try to convince you that it's actually profound, right?
Yeah, and it's like, yo,
no, Gladiator isn't just about killing.
Yeah,
Like,
it's about
it's
a
so
dude
smart.
Yeah, it's a dude getting revenge for his family. That's cool, but let's not make this shit deeper than what it really is. There isn't some deeper theme or some
We talked about populism. This is about populism.
there isn't some deeper
Power of the
theme
people.
or crazier message to take away from this. The dude wanted revenge. He got revenge because homie was an ass, and he leveraged being a badass soldier man to make it happen. Like, cool. But let's like temper ourselves of like,
All
okay,
right.
cool. That's what this movie is.
I don't subscribe to this school of thought. I think this movie was awesome.
Beautiful.
It definitely isn't like the best movie that's ever been made, but like it's awesome and you should watch it and enjoy it. And it is a dude's movie, but I mean, it didn't get to be a blockbuster hit because women didn't go see it. So it's not like this doesn't have appeal to women as well. Yes.
I have a fun story to tell. Speaking of a woman, and
look at that! We
and
hit
this
an
movie.
hour. We don't have to. Oh no, I'm sorry. Keep going.
I just think it's fun to share. Anna, who grew up in a very like strict religious household, didn't see a lot of movies, but she saw Gladiator, and like when she went off to college, people were like, "Yo." Like they'd name like classic movies. Have you ever seen like Back to the Future, like or whatever? And she'd be like, no. But they'd be like, yo, have you if Gladiator came up, she'd be like, yeah, of course. Like she'd be like so eager to talk about it, and then she'd say,
that's all she got.
and then she'd be like, oh my god, I saw Gladiator. Like, wasn't Cuba Gooding Jr. so amazing in that movie? And then everyone would be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
Cuba
what is she
Gooding
talking about?
Jr.
You talking about like Snow
no,
Dogs?
and she's like, no, Gladiator when Cuba Gooding Jr. is fighting that white guy, and they're like, what are you talking about in the Coliseum? And like,
about?
she'd be like, no, not in the Coliseum, like in the boxing ring, and it'd be like, what the fuck are you saying? Turns out there is another Gladiator movie from like 1994 starring Cuba Gooding Jr. 1992, it's a boxing movie that takes place with these guys in a high school, and the other boxer is the dude from A Few Good Men. And this happened to be some random movie that was on VHS tape that existed in the Concepcion household on Guam that she had seen multiple times that nobody else in the world has seen.
Is it worth seeing? Should we watch this?
I watched a clip of it. It's outrageous.
Which guy from A Few Good Men?
This is a movie that does not hold up.
One's fighting for gambling debts, the white kid. The other's trying to fight money to get out of the ghetto. And they both have a crappy boxing promoter who... What is this shit?
Yeah.
Feels very 90s. Yeah.
Very 90s. And of course, these two rival boxers become friends or something.
Yeah, because this is like
the
war on
guy,
drugs,
the white guy.
war on gangs, war on crime. Like this is all that era. Of course you got a story like that.
Like, oh my God.
Wrong Gladiator. At least it wasn't not Gladiator. At least she wasn't remembering like Jerry Maguire as this other movie.
It's like it seemed like she was
that.
gaslit, but she's actually accurate. It's the joke's on the rest of us.
That was a misconception. That's what that was.
Bravo,
See what I did there?
That gets a thumbs up from me. Thumbs up. Live.
All right. On the next pods, I believe we're maybe gonna tackle some Silo, maybe some Arcane. Something else is coming out.
Dune Prophecy.
Oh,
maybe?
Dune Prophecy. So we'll definitely talk about Dune Prophecy, right? You guys are into that?
Maybe
we'll see.
I watched Dune.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Well, I want to talk about Arcane. So hopefully you'll tickle what is it?
Indulge the Wesley.
There it is.
Gladiator come out on Thursday.
And Gladiator will be out, so we can talk about the actual movie starring Denzel. It can't be bad if Denzel's in it. It can't be bad.
Sure,
it'll be good.
I hope they do something really interesting with why he's there and how he's involved.
I hope so. That would be kind of silly if they didn't.
Hopefully,
all right, friends. So check out Arcane. Maybe go check out Gladiator. There's a chance we talk about Dune Prophecy on HBO Max and Silo. Although I don't think Sab's going to be into Silo. Maybe we'll have to do that as a What We're Loving. We'll see. All right, friends. See you later. Bye.